You know that feeling when someone's begging you for mercy? When they're looking up at you with tears in their eyes, pleading for just one more chance? Yeah, I do too. 10 years ago, I was the one crying. The one being shoved into lockers. The one eating lunch alone in the bathroom stall because the cafeteria felt like a war zone. 3 people made my life a living hell, and I'm not talking about the occasional mean comment. I'm talking about systematic, calculated, soul-crushing torment that made me question whether I even deserved to exist. Fast forward a decade, those same 3 people walked into my office as job applicants, and let me tell you, what happened next was so perfectly, deliciously karmic that even I couldn't have scripted it better. This is the story of how the universe handed me revenge on a silver platter, and I didn't waste a single second of it. But before we dive into this incredibly satisfying tale of justice, if you've ever been underestimated, bullied, or pushed aside by people who thought they were better than you, hit that like button right now. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because trust me, you're going to want to hear how this ends. And believe me when I say, karma doesn't just knock. Sometimes, it kicks the door clean off the hinges. All right, let's go back to where it all started. Junior year of high school, 2015. A time that should have been about football games, first dates, and figuring out what college to apply to. For me, it was survival mode, every single day. Picture this: a skinny, awkward kid with braces, oversized glasses that kept sliding down a sweaty nose, and clothes that never quite fit right. That was me. Add in the fact that my family didn't have money, my dad had just lost his job, and I was too anxious to make eye contact with anyone. Yeah, I was an easy target. And they knew it. Let me introduce you to the Trinity of Terror. We'll call them Jake, Madison, and Trevor. The 3 of them were the golden students. Jake was the quarterback, the guy every teacher loved because he volunteered for everything and smiled like he'd been carved out of a toothpaste commercial. Madison was the girl who seemed perfect, popular, pretty, the one who organized charity drives and posted inspirational quotes on social media. And Trevor? The class clown, the guy who could make everyone laugh, especially when it was at someone else's expense. To the outside world, they were untouchable. Role models. Future leaders. To me, they were monsters wearing human masks. It started small. A shoulder check in the hallway. Oops, didn't see you there. Laughter echoing as books scattered across the floor. Teachers walking by, pretending not to notice. Then it escalated. Madison started a rumor that I had a creepy obsession with her. Suddenly, everyone was looking at me differently. Whispers followed me like a shadow. Girls would clutch their bags tighter when I walked by. Guys would shove me harder, like they were doing the school a favor. I tried to defend myself, but the words wouldn't come out right. My face would turn red, hands trembling, voice cracking. Every attempt to stand up for myself just made it worse. Jake took it to another level. He convinced the gym teacher that I'd stolen money from the locker room. I hadn't. But who were they going to believe? The star athlete or the weird loner kid? I got suspended for 3 days. When I came back, the nickname Klepto was already waiting for me, scrawled across my locker in permanent marker. Trevor, though? He was the worst, because he made it fun. He'd trip me in front of crowds, then help me up with this big, exaggerated show of concern. Oh man, you okay? You really gotta watch where you're going. Everyone would laugh. Teachers would smile. And I'd stand there, humiliated, with his hand gripping my shoulder just a little too tight, his eyes daring me to say something. The worst day came in May, end of junior year. I'd finally worked up the courage to ask a girl to prom. Her name was Emma, and she'd been nice to me a few times. Actually smiled when we were paired up for a history project. I wrote her a note. Stupid, I know, but I was too scared to do it in person. I slipped it into her locker before first period, hands shaking so badly I could barely write. By lunch, the entire school had seen it. Trevor had intercepted the note. He'd made copies, hundreds of them, and plastered them all over the school. The cafeteria, the gym, the bathrooms. My awkward, vulnerable words were everywhere, with drawings and comments scribbled all over them. Desperate, Pathetic? As if. When I walked into the cafeteria, the entire room erupted in laughter. Someone had projected the note onto the wall using the overhead projector. Jake was doing a dramatic reading, his voice dripping with mockery, while Madison filmed it on her phone, tears of laughter streaming down her face. Emma was sitting at their table, laughing along with everyone else. Something inside me just shattered. I felt my chest tighten, my vision blur. I couldn't breathe. I turned and ran, their laughter chasing me down the hallway like a pack of wolves. I locked myself in a bathroom stall and cried. Not just tears, but the kind of sobbing that makes your entire body shake. The kind where you can't tell if you're crying or suffocating. I stayed there until school ended, too ashamed to face anyone. That night, I stared at the ceiling of my bedroom and made a promise to myself. This won't be forever. One day I'll make something of myself. One day they'll regret this. But in that moment, it felt like an impossible dream. Senior year was a blur. I kept my head down, avoided everyone, and focused on one thing: getting out. I applied to colleges across the country, anywhere that wasn't here. When I got accepted to a state school 6 hours away, I felt like I'd been thrown a lifeline. College was different. Not perfect, but different. I reinvented myself. Hit the gym, not to become some muscle-bound giant, but to feel like I had control over something. Got contacts, found a therapist who helped me unpack all the trauma I'd been carrying. Slowly, painfully, I started to rebuild. But the real transformation? That came from anger. The kind that doesn't explode but simmers. The kind that fuels ambition instead of destruction. I threw myself into my studies. Business and computer science double major. I didn't party. Didn't date much. I was obsessed with one goal: success. Not just for me, but to prove something. To prove that those 3 idiots had been wrong about me. That I wasn't weak. That I wasn't worthless. By my junior year of college, I'd started a small tech consulting business from my dorm room. Nothing fancy, just helping local businesses set up their websites and online presence. But it grew. Fast. By the time I graduated, I had a team of 5 contractors and enough clients to turn it into a legitimate company. Within 3 years, I'd expanded into software development, creating custom solutions for mid-sized companies. Within 5 years, we'd landed our first major corporate contract. And within 10 years? My company was worth 8 figures. We had offices in 3 states, over 200 employees, and a reputation as one of the fastest-growing tech firms in the region. I'd done it. I'd actually done it. But here's the thing about success, especially the kind built on a foundation of pain. It doesn't feel like you think it will. Sure, I had money, respect, a corner office with a view, but that knot in my chest, the one that had formed on that day in the cafeteria, never fully went away. Not until they walked through my door. It was a Tuesday morning. I was reviewing quarterly reports when my assistant knocked on the door. "You've got 3 interviews scheduled for the regional sales manager position," she said, handing me a folder. "All experienced candidates. Should be quick." I nodded, barely looking up. We'd been expanding rapidly, and I needed someone who could manage a team and close deals. These interviews were just a formality. My HR director had already vetted them. The first candidate walked in. Confident stride, firm handshake, expensive suit that didn't quite hide the fact that he'd gained weight since his glory days. Jake. He didn't recognize me. Not at first. Why would he? The scrawny kid with braces had become a 30-something CEO with a tailored suit and an aura of quiet authority. I'd changed my last name years ago for branding purposes, so even seeing it on the door wouldn't have tipped him off. But I recognized him immediately. That same smile, that same cocky tilt of the head. My heart started pounding, but I kept my face neutral. "Please have a seat." The interview started normally. I asked about his experience, his goals, his strengths. He answered with practiced ease, clearly thinking this was in the bag. Then I asked about his time at our high school. His expression flickered. Confusion. then slow, dawning recognition. Wait, do I know you? I leaned back in my chair, letting the silence stretch just long enough to make him squirm. You should, I said quietly. You read one of my most personal moments out loud in front of the entire school. You called me klepto for a year. You made my life a living hell. The color drained from his face. His mouth opened, but no words came out. But please, I continued, my voice calm, almost pleasant. Tell me more about why you think you'd be a good fit for this company. He stuttered through the rest of the interview, his confidence evaporating with every passing second. When he left, his handshake was weak, his eyes unable to meet mine. 2 more interviews were scheduled that day. Madison walked in next. Then Trevor. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor. Madison had changed the least. Still polished, still pretty, but there was something desperate around the edges now. Her smile was too bright, her laugh too quick. She needed this job. I could see it in the way her hands gripped her portfolio a little too tightly. She didn't recognize me either. Not until I made sure she did. So, Madison, I said, scrolling through her resume on my tablet. I see you worked in marketing for a few years. What happened there? Oh, you know, she said with a forced laugh. Company downsized. Wrong place, wrong time. I set the tablet down and looked directly at her. Tell me, do you remember ever participating in or encouraging workplace bullying? Her smile faltered. What? No, of course not. I would never… Really? Because I specifically remember you filming someone's humiliation and laughing while it happened. You even posted it online, if I recall correctly. Her face went white. Who are you? I told her. The transformation was instant. Her polished exterior cracked, revealing panic underneath. She started apologizing, words tumbling out in a desperate rush. Oh my God, I was just a kid. I was stupid. I didn't mean anything by it. Please, I'm so sorry. I'm not that person anymore. I held up a hand. She fell silent. You needed a job badly enough to apply here, I said. Which means you're probably struggling. Which means for once in your life, you know what it feels like to be vulnerable, to be at someone else's mercy. Tears were forming in her eyes now. Real ones. I want you to think about that feeling, I continued. Really sit with it. And then I want you to imagine if someone had the power to help you, but chose not to, just because they could. How would that feel? Please, she whispered. I have student loans, I have bills, I need this. I'm begging you. There it was. The word I'd been waiting for. Begging. Trevor was last. He walked in with that same easy charm, that same assumption that everyone would like him. The class clown who never grew up. He recognized me halfway through my first question. I saw it in his eyes, the way they widened slightly, the way his smile became fixed and plastic. Oh man, he said, trying to laugh it off. This is wild. Small world, huh? Look, if this is about high school, we were just kids messing around. You know how it is. I don't, actually, I interrupted. Explain it to me. Explain how making someone's life miserable was just messing around. He tried to deflect, to joke, to minimize. But I didn't let him. Every time he tried to laugh it off, I pressed harder, asked more direct questions, made him sit with the weight of what he'd done. Eventually, the joke stopped. The mask slipped, and underneath, there was nothing. No remorse. No real understanding of the pain he'd caused. Just a desperate man who needed a job and was angry that his past was catching up with him. Look, man, he finally said, frustration bleeding into his voice. What do you want from me? You want me to grovel? You want me to beg? Fine. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. Now can we just move past this? I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the city below. My city, in a way, the one I'd conquered through sheer force of will and spite. You know what the saddest part is? I said without turning around. You still don't get it. None of you do. You ruined someone and you don't even remember why. It was just fun for you. Just something to do. I turned back to face him. I built this company from nothing. Every brick, every contract, every success was earned through blood and tears. Literally in some cases. And you three, you peaked in high school. You're here, in my office, desperate for a chance I'm never going to give you, and you still can't understand why. I called all three of them back for a group follow-up interview, a power move. Sure, but I'd earned it. They sat in chairs facing my desk, each of them realizing who the others were, the weight of the situation pressing down on them like a physical force. So, I began, leaning back in my chair, I'm going to be honest with you. None of you are getting this job. None of you are qualified, and even if you were, I wouldn't hire you. But I wanted you here together for a reason. Jake spoke first, his voice barely above a whisper. Look, we were kids. We made mistakes, but it's been 10 years. Don't we deserve a chance to move on? Move on? I repeated. That's interesting. Because I couldn't move on. I had to carry what you did to me every single day. Through college, through building this company, through every moment where I doubted myself because you three convinced me I was worthless. You got to forget. I didn't get that luxury. Madison was crying openly now. What do you want from us? What can we possibly do to make this right? I stood up, walked around the desk, and looked at each of them in turn. I want you to understand something. This, right here, right now, this isn't me being cruel. This isn't revenge. This is consequences. You spent years making someone feel small, and now you get to feel small. You get to walk out of here knowing that the person you tormented is the one who decided your fate. And you get to live with that. Trevor's jaw was clenched, his hands balled into fists. So that's it? You get your power trip and we're just, what, supposed to suffer? No, I said calmly. You're supposed to learn. You're supposed to become better people. Because right now, you're not. You're just older versions of the bullies you were. And until you actually confront that, until you actually understand the depth of what you did, you'll keep failing. Not because of me, but because that's what happens to people who never grow. I walked back to my desk, pressed the intercom button. Security, please escort these three individuals out of the building. They are not to be allowed back on the premises. Jake stood first, his face red with humiliation. You know what? You're no better than we were. You're doing the exact same thing. I met his eyes. No, Jake, I'm doing something very different. I'm holding you accountable, something no one else ever did. Madison tried one more time. Please, I really am sorry. I've changed. I have a daughter now, and I would never want someone to treat her the way I treated you. Doesn't that count for something? For a moment, just a brief flicker, I felt something soften in my chest. But then I remembered. The bathroom stall. The tears. The suffocating shame. It might, I said. Someday. But today? No, today you live with consequences. Security arrived. They escorted all three of them out. Trevor muttering angry curses under his breath, Madison still crying, Jake silent and shell-shocked. I watched them walk across the lobby from my window. Three people who'd once made me feel like nothing, now reduced to exactly that in my world. And you know what? It felt complicated. I'd like to tell you I felt pure triumph, that I jumped up and down and celebrated, that this was the moment all my pain washed away. But that's not how revenge works. Not really. I felt satisfied, yes. Validated, absolutely. But I also felt tired, because carrying anger for 10 years is exhausting. Even when you use it as fuel. And finally releasing it doesn't leave you empty, it just leaves you different. I thought about Madison's daughter, about whether breaking her mother down was really justice or just perpetuating a cycle. I thought about Jake, who might have been able to turn his life around if given a chance. I thought about Trevor, whose inability to take anything seriously was probably masking his own pain. But then I thought about 17-year-old me, sobbing in that bathroom stall, convinced life wasn't worth living. And I thought about how no one, not one teacher or administrator or bystander, had stood up for that kid. Someone had to, even if it was just me, 10 years too late. Here's what I've learned. Karma isn't always some cosmic force that magically balances the scales. Sometimes you have to be your own karma. Sometimes justice is something you build, brick by brick, success by success, until you're in a position where your mere existence is proof that they were wrong about you. Did I handle it perfectly? Probably not. Could I have been more gracious, more forgiving, more evolved? Maybe. But I wasn't going to give them something no one gave me. Mercy they didn't earn. A few weeks after that day, I got an email from Madison, a long one, full of genuine apologies and attempts to explain her mindset back then. She talked about her own insecurities, about how tearing others down had been a way to feel powerful. She didn't make excuses, just tried to provide context. I read it. I didn't respond. Jake reached out through LinkedIn, a professional message asking if we could have coffee, talk things through. I declined. Trevor? Never heard from him again. And honestly, that's probably for the best, because this story isn't about reconciliation. It's about closure, about a scared kid who became strong enough to face his demons and prove them wrong. About a universe that sometimes, just sometimes, gives you exactly the opportunity you need. I still run my company. It's still growing. And every time I walk into my office, every time I look at what I've built, I think about those 3 people and the gift they accidentally gave me. Motivation. They tried to destroy me. Instead, they forged me. So let me ask you something. Have you ever had someone underestimate you? Bully you? Try to make you feel like you were nothing? What did you do about it? Because here's the thing, the best revenge isn't necessarily confrontation. It's becoming so undeniably successful that your existence is proof they were wrong. It's building a life so full and meaningful that they become footnotes in your story instead of the main antagonists. They wanted me to disappear. Instead, I made sure they could never forget me. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt that burning desire to prove your worth to people who doubted you, smash that like button right now. Drop a comment below telling me about your own experience with bullies or karma. And subscribe, because we've got more stories of justice, revenge, and the sweet, sweet satisfaction of proving people wrong coming your way. Remember, they don't get to write your ending. You do. I'll see you in the next one.